Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa, Dan Ige versus Ilia Topuria, and many other fights have been announced over the past couple of days, so I thought, you know what, let's react to all of them in today's MMA News reaction video, starting with Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa being announced for the Australia card in February of next year. This is a massive middleweight bout. I kind of saw it coming because when you think about it, Paulo Costa is like the only top-ranked middleweight that Whittaker hasn't beat yet, and recently as well, because Whittaker has gone through a lot of names outside of Adesanya in the rankings of the middleweight division. He beat Darren Till, he beat Kelvin Gastelum, he beat Derek Brunson already a while ago. I know it was a while ago, but still Brunson hadn't really earned that jump up the rankings. Paulo Costa coming up the rankings. He just beat Luke Rockhold. He's coming off a win. He needs to go upwards. It makes sense to make this matchup, especially because Whittaker also beat Vettori and Cannonier as well. He's really putting together a big resume of contenders in the middleweight division, but one of them is Paulo Costa that he hasn't beat yet. So I'm really looking forward to this matchup, and I'll be honest, this is a dangerous fight for Robert Whittaker. I really do believe so. Now, when the Gastelum fight was made, and when the Vettori fight was made as well, I was thinking to myself, this is an easy fight for Whittaker. I'm not really too excited about the fight, in all honesty. I was looking forward to Whittaker-Vettori, don't get me wrong, but I kind of just knew that Vettori didn't have anything for Whittaker. You know what I'm saying? This is more like a Cannonier-Whittaker announcement type feel for me. I know how Whittaker deals with different opponents and different styles of opponents, and I feel as though some of the big tanky guys that have power in their hands, like Paulo Costa and also like Jared Cannonier, I feel like Whittaker struggles against that style of opponent more than he does against like a guy like Marvin Vettori, who also is a tank like Paulo Costa, but he just doesn't really have any talent. He doesn't really have any danger in his hands or his strikes or anything like that. He hasn't really got great pressure on the feet either, or educated pressure. Whereas Paulo Costa is a big, dangerous guy for the middleweight division with a lot of power. I know he looked terrible in his last fight against Luke Rockhold, but I think we can put a bit of that at least down to the altitude that they were fighting at in Salt Lake City. I feel as though Whittaker's going to win this one. I think he's a little bit too quick, a little bit too deadly, and I think he's going to be able to carry that speed and danger into the fight as we go on. But Paulo Costa's going to give him a really tough round one. That's my prediction for this fight. I believe, seeing as this is a 3-rounder in Australia, I reckon we're going to see Paulo Costa really put it on him for about a round. I think Whittaker's going to survive that round because typically people survive that round against Paulo Costa. I know I just spoke about his power, and we do speak about his power in general, but Paulo Costa doesn't really seem to be able to put people away early on in fights. He hasn't done so since, I believe, the Hendricks fight, maybe against Olawale Bangbos. I don't think, and this is an interesting stat, Paulo Costa doesn't have a win, as far as I'm aware, over a single fighter in the UFC, which is crazy because Rockhold just retired basically. So, through no fault of his own at times, but also it's kind of telling, Uriah Hall just retired as well. Paulo Costa doesn't have a single win over anyone in the UFC currently, so he needs this one, or he's going to start dropping down those rankings and start being used to propel other people up the rankings. Whittaker, I think, gets this one done, though. I really do. I think if Uriah Hall can survive the first round against Paulo Costa, knowing his tendency to kind of quit on fights and succumb to damage, I don't see Paulo Costa having a successful round 2 that he had against Uriah Hall, and then that he's had against other opponents against a guy like Whittaker. Whittaker will make the adjustments. He'll be too fresh in round 2 compared to the other fighters that Paulo Costa's taken on. And I reckon he'll start to win as this fight goes on. I think it's going to be a great fight. We're going to see Whittaker tested. We're going to see him in some danger where he's covering up against a cage and Costa's ripping him to the body and head, and Whittaker's taking it and showing some toughness. But I think eventually in this fight, we're going to see Whittaker start to find the jab on Paulo Costa. It's a problem that Paulo Costa has. He can be out-jabbed. He's got very short arms, and he throws a lot of hooks, and sometimes his footwork isn't the best to get him into range to land those hooks, and often he has to sort of like pin his opponent against a cage first before he can start landing some effective strikes. But I think we're going to see Robert Whittaker get this one done in the second and third round, 29-28. Maybe losing the first, in all honesty. It's going to be a close round. Both guys are going to land their shots. But I really do believe we're going to see Robert Whittaker take some damage here. Maybe some body kicks early on as well. So I trust Whittaker to take those shots to the torso. But I'm telling you, as a Whittaker fan, a big Whittaker fan myself, I mean, I think Whittaker beat Adesanya in the rematch. And I do consider him the best middleweight on earth by far right now. The way he's looking against some of these other contenders, he's schooling them. Not by far. I think he's the best middleweight on earth. That's my point. We're going to see him in some trouble. And if you're a Whittaker fan, have your fingers crossed in round 1 because Paulo Costa can land that shot. He hasn't done it yet, but he can. And the way he swings, logic would tell that he does have a bit of power in those hands. But some of these middleweights are just so tough. So I'm going to be going with Robert Whittaker. When you really think about the striking skill of Paulo Costa, fair play, he may not have been at his best against Marvin Vettori, but at the same time, Vettori won round 1 against him. Now, is it because Vettori's a tank and he can ignore shots and just hold his ground against a guy like Paulo Costa? Yes. But I still think Whittaker's going to have a massive skill advantage on the feet over Paulo. I think the front kick to the body is going to be a massive tool that he can use as well. But danger early on is what I'm sensing. But the winner of this one, got to be fighting for the belt in the middleweight division next, because if Adesanya beats Pereira, which I don't believe he will, but even if he loses, they're likely going to be on this card anyway against each other in a rematch. If that whole dust settles and Adesanya's still the champion, the winner of this has got to get the title shot, because if, Yuri beats Teixeira, or Teixeira beats Yuri, they might do a trilogy, and there's a bunch of contenders right now in the light heavyweight division that are about to earn their title shot as well, so you can't really do a super fight anytime soon. So the winner of this is definitely going to get a title shot. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one, and if Pereira wins, the winner of this is definitely going to get a title shot, so we'll see how it goes. Great fight, though. Really glad. We'll see what else they add to the Australia card. Speaking of which, we'll get to that in a second. But first, we have Dan Ige versus Ilia Topuria, which has been made. Very weird. I almost forgot Dan Ige existed for a second, but, Dan Ige versus Ilia Topuria in the works for December the 17th, which is a great card for it to be in the works for. It's the end of the year card. Cannonier versus Strickland, another big middleweight fight that's taking place in the main event. And this is a co-main event. Now, Ilia Topuria was allegedly going to be stepping in to fight Bryce Mitchell, but he couldn't make weight. So don't talk all that if you're not going to be able to make weight against Bryce Mitchell. So he needed a later date. Mitchell wants to fight in November, and now he's looking for a new opponent for himself. Maybe Sadiq Youssef is the word on the street there. We'll see how it goes. But Dan Ige, got to respect him. Takes on all up-and-comers. Movsar Evloev, he fought last time. Dangerous up-and-comer who recently pulled out against Bryce Mitchell as well. So he's sort of a part of this, triangle of Ilia Topuria, Mitchell, and Evloev. But we've now got Dan Ige versus Ilia Topuria. I'm just glad that we're seeing Ilia Topuria fight someone. If I'm honest with you, I'm glad we're seeing Ilia Topuria fight someone. Finally, at last. He's getting back in there. It's been too long. I feel like, has he been out since March, where he fought Jai Herbert? Probably good for him, because he did get knocked down in that fight. We're not forgetting that. And he does have to recover that chin. But he just needs enough time to recalibrate his weight cut. I'm sure after the Edson Barboza fight fell out, he started eating a little bit of food and sort of wallowing over the fact that he wasn't going to fight this year. Now they've given him Dan Ige, so respect to Dan Ige. I think he's going to lose, but I think he has a hell of a chance against Ilia Topuria. I really do. Topuria fights in a way that Dan Ige loves. That's all I'm going to say. Ilia Topuria, I believe, is going to win. I think technically he's better, and if there's one of them that's going to mix in the grappling, it's going to be Ilia Topuria here. But Topuria gets in your face and scraps it out Mike Tyson style, and Ige loves that, and he does it very well, and he can do it with Josh Emmett. So although I'm going to pick Ilia Topuria to win, if he does, it does say a lot about Ilia Topuria. So this isn't just Dan Ige, random guy who's ranked. This is a big tell if you can beat Dan Ige at Dan Ige's style. Because Dan Ige arguably beat Josh Emmett. You know what I'm saying? So normally it's people with range or grappling that give Ige a bit of problems, like Calvin Kattar or Movsar Evloev. But if Ilia Topuria can beat him at his game and beat him clearly at that, you can start arguing, well, Topuria could probably beat Josh Emmett and stuff like that. So it really does set perspective on just where Ilia Topuria sits in the featherweight division. Really looking forward to this matchup. I'll go with Ilia Topuria. Younger, more improving, hungrier as well. Ige's been on a bit of a slide recently, taken a bit of damage recently as well. So I'm going to side with Ilia Topuria here. Plus, he has the opportunity to mix in the grappling. And I think he goes to the body a bit better than Dan Ige does as well. And that might be the difference here. So I'm siding with him, but we'll see how it goes. Really looking forward to it, though. December 17th, it needed a little bit of flavour. It's got some flavour with Dan Ige versus Ilia Topuria. And I'm really looking forward to this matchup. Now, what's going on with Bryce Mitchell? Enough about all this stuff that he's talking about that I don't want to mention any of because it could get me demonetized. Let's get on to the serious topics, Bryce Mitchell. Who you taking on? Because at this point, it's probably not going to be on the main event of a fight night if it's not a ranked opponent. So what I believe they should do, we've got Ryan Spann versus Dominic Reyes on the prelims of UFC 281 in November, the Adesanya card. Bring it a week earlier. Put it as the main event of that Bryce Mitchell card, and then do Bryce Mitchell versus, say, a Julian Erosa on the prelims of that card in November, the pay-per-view with Adesanya as the headliner, and do that instead. Because that way, I feel like Ryan Spann, Dominic Reyes is a decent main event, considering the card is kind of strong enough underneath it, you know what I'm saying? So, we'll see what they decide to do. Moving on to another fight that got announced recently that was Jack Della Maddalena versus Danny Roberts, November 19th. Now, people were shocked by this, but I've been hearing for a long time, and the news articles have been coming up. No one wants to fight Jack Della Maddalena. So he's been looking for these names outside the rankings to get his hands on, and they're all saying no, allegedly. So he can't find an opponent. Danny Roberts has stepped in. He said he was supposed to be fighting in November. He wants to fight in November. I think his main plan was fight in November or October, enjoy Christmas, get on the Australia card next year. And that's what he's trying to sort of live up to here, which is why this fight is in 5 weeks? 4 weeks time, November the 19th. And it's on a card that needed it as well, which is the Lewis versus Spivak card, which was looking pretty weak. So now we've got something to look forward to in a prospect bout for Jack Della Maddalena. So I'm not angry about it, but it's a bit one-sided, isn't it? I think he's going to win against Danny Roberts. You're talking about a guy with serious power in his hands, real crisp boxing with a very good chin as well, and great takedown defense against maybe, I'm not saying this lightly either, now that James Vick's gone, maybe, just maybe, well, JP Bays is there, the chinniest fighter pound for pound in the UFC. So we'll see how it goes for him. Maybe he could upset and get the win. He's an explosive guy. He's dangerous, but I reckon we're going to see Jack Della Maddalena take it slow, nice and patient, finish off Danny Roberts. If Danny Roberts is going jelly-legged in front of Jack Della Maddalena, he ain't surviving till the distance like he does against a guy like Trinaldo. That's all I know. So if he goes jelly-legged from a jab at any point, he's getting finished off with combinations against a cage. I think this will be a big win for Jack Della Maddalena. And if he does win, if he does, don't want to jinx it, he'll turn around for the Australia card in February. And hopefully we can get some more fighters on that Australia card as well. We've also got Lauren Murphy versus Jessica Andrade added to the Brazil card. This is actually more interesting. I was surprised by Lauren Murphy's performance against Miesha Tate, but I still feel as though Andrade is going to win this one. I think none of these girls at flyweight or strawweight have anything for her outside of the elite of the elite. And I don't think Lauren Murphy's in that mix yet, so I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade getting herself a decision win. I don't think she'll finish. I think she'll have enough power to win the first 2 rounds, but we're going to see Lauren Murphy win the third. So I think I'm going to go with a 29-28 decision there. There might be some money on the over for Jessica Andrade. We'll see how it goes. We've got another fight made as well. Ketlin Vieira, Raquel Pennington kind of confirms that if there's going to be any bantamweight getting a title shot, it's going to be Irene Aldana or Nunes Shevchenko 3 on the Brazil main event if Oliveira doesn't win at UFC 280. I could also see that being a reality. Or if Oliveira can't turn around fast enough for the January card, I could see that being the case. And William Knight's going to KO Marcin Prachnio. But I'm looking forward to the Maddalena fight, and if he wins, put him on the Australia card. We need a lot on that Australia card. We need to get sound the horn for the Australians. Let's get them rallying onto that card because you can make some real superstars in their home country on that card. So really looking forward to it. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've got Whittaker beating Paulo Costa with some danger early on. I think he'll win a decision. If it was a 5-rounder, I think he'd late finish against a gassed out, tired Paulo Costa. I've got Jack Della Maddalena winning by round 1 KO. And when it comes to Ige Ilia Topuria, I'm going to go over fight of the night, scrappy war, 29-28, Ilia Topuria. Barely does enough, lands the more damaging shots, rocks Ige more than Ige rocks him, and wins it based on damage. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Enjoy UFC 280 this weekend. Wasn't expecting this news, but hopefully we'll get like a Jones Miocic announcement at UFC 280. Who knows? We'll see. See you later.